You hit the button. I'm just on.
Yes, I did. Good morning, everyone. It's 6 a.m. on the 6th of November, 2025. Welcome to the Mighty Morning Meetup. We have Dr. Kills,
I'm here.
comfortably in New York, and we have Linda we're going to be talking to in a moment. Everybody, please put in the chat where they're watching from and hashtag KMT for a t-shirt. It'll be a random t-shirt. We'll give you a t-shirt. We'll give away a t-shirt for the winner. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. Any other announcements? Today at 3 p.m. we have Denitra Davis in our 3 p.m. live stream. And tonight at 5:30 for those in the Zoom call, I'll see you there as well. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Dr. Kills?
I am very well. I made it to upstate New York from, I was in Colorado Springs yesterday, Vegas the day before. Day before that, I was in Houston, Nashville, and I've been traveling this beautiful world talking about faith and fat. But I'm great. I'm in upstate New York, Syracuse today.
So, Linda, for those that you may not know who you are, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us your story. Now, you're among a group of people that in 2025, I kind of consider the veterans, the OGs, and you'll tell us about that. Certainly throughout the history, there have been people eating a carnivore lifestyle for many, many years. Right now, I guess the oldest one is Maggie from Canada. Has been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
That we know. Yeah, that we know of. Certainly. There's probably thousands, millions that have done it throughout the years. But go ahead and tell us your story.
Yeah.
And maybe we can talk after about this new trend of adding carbs. And
Sure.
right.
Yeah. So I'm Linda Salant. I am known as the Carnitarian on Instagram and on other social media. I have been doing a carnivore diet for 10 years now. I started back in 2015. My story is basically like I was in what I thought was pretty good health. I've always been sort of interested in staying healthy, staying fit. But after having 2 kids, I was like, I could, stand to lose a few pounds. And I had learned about a ketogenic diet back in college. I had then done an Atkins diet post-college for a while. And it was always where I felt my best was in ketosis. And it always helped me sort of drop a few pounds. I said, okay, I'll go back to a ketogenic diet back in 2015. And at that time, there was this Facebook group, Zeroing In on Health, which we all probably know pretty well, where all of those, like you say, vets were sort of hanging out and sharing experiences and sort of teaching about how to do this carnivore diet. In there were people like Joe and Charlene Anderson, Kelly Hogan, Charles Washington, Lisa Wiedemann. Everybody was in there sort of saying, like, you can do this. It's absolutely sustainable. It's really good for you. It's healthful. It's going to give you all the nutrition you need, and it's going to help solve a lot of health issues and some weight loss to boot. And I said, okay, I can do this. It was ketogenic, it seemed, and it seemed easy enough. The rules at the time were just like, eat the meat that you like. It was really simple. It was like, they said if it had a mother or if it came from a mother, it's fair game. You can eat it, and there wasn't really a lot of dogma around the rules of carnivore. It was just like, eat the meat you like. It was like, it seemed pretty simple. So I did that, and I thought I would do that for 30 days and I would lose a few pounds. But then I started seeing some really tremendous health benefits, physically and mentally. that I said, you know what, after 30 days, I'm not going back. There was no reason for me to go back to a standard American diet. And I had not been eating junk food. I was never a food addict. I was never really overweight, aside from some pregnancies. So for me to stay carnivore, it was really for just like the major health benefits, not the weight loss benefits. And so, yeah, I've been doing it now for 10 years, and I share about it. I help people, sort out how they can make it part of their lives. And, I sort of help them understand that it's not harmful for them. It may help them. And I give them, tips and tricks on how to make it sustainable.
Very good. You have any questions, Dr. Kiltz?
Well,
if you have any questions, put them in the chat, okay? I see. Go ahead, Dr. Kiltz.
We were talking about carbohydrates beforehand, and we're chatting about the fact that sugars are in all cells of all organisms. And my sense is it's still the plants, the plant poisons, the goitrogens, and the fiber, which are really our deadliest component of our diet. And eating animal products is likely the healthiest, because I'm always asked the question, well, what toxins are in meat?
Right. I mean, what? Really none.
None.
It's the most anti-inflammatory food. It is the most proper food for humans. So I agree with you completely. All of the anti-nutrients, and I count fiber as one of those. We just don't need them, and they are more harmful than helpful. What I find is some things like seasonings or sauces, where you're adding small amounts of plant food, for sustainability's sake. I think that can be very helpful for people to maintain a carnivore diet. But those are always going to be like to tolerance. So if you have some kind of major issue, health problem that you're trying to solve, lion diet, just, meat, fat, salt, water is going to be your best bet. But if you don't have such major issues than that, a little bit of something from the plant kingdom can help carnivore be very sustainable for people and give them that variety and the flexibility that they need. It's very hard for people to sustain something like a lion diet for a very long time.
Well, I always say that variety is deadly, because you can't have a wife or a husband and boyfriends and girlfriends on the side.
That's true.
Doesn't work. So, and what other animal is like, well, I can't eat another wildebeest or eat that grass again. There is a species specific nutritional formula for all of us. And when we go and stray outside of it, since modern science, medicine, and nutritional science has got into this messaging, are we getting healthier or sicker in general?
Absolutely, we've gone downhill. The things that we accept as food, when we go into the supermarket, you've seen this. We see this aisles and aisles of food. It's just not. It does not register at this point as food. The food to me is really like what's at the butcher's counter. So I agree with you. We have not done ourselves any favors with the advent of, other than being able to feed the masses poorly with agriculture. We've not done anything for our health with that.
And when
certainly here, we don't consider many of those things food, and maybe we're preaching to the choir, but it looks like 99% of people do think it's food. And you go to the supermarket, you can hardly see one of those buggies that doesn't have anything that comes that doesn't come in a box, a bag, or a can. And so
it's wild what you'll see in people's carts. It is the bulk of what we're eating. Over the years, you can see those charts where what we've eaten from the 50s on, we've just really reduced our meat consumption. We've increased our grain consumption. A lot of people have bought into this, plant based propaganda. They think it is the healthiest way to eat. And so oftentimes when people are needing some help and they're trying to get healthy, they double down on those things that are actually harming them, like those heavy oxalate foods, those goitrogenic foods, the phytates, the lectins, all the things that Dr. Keltz was talking about. And then they end up in a worse situation where really what they needed was the opposite advice, to cut those modern foods out and stick with the meat. Absolutely.
I grew up on a Mediterranean diet, whatever that is. I ate lots of meat and lots of plants, lots of cereal, lots of pancakes,
Pasta.
waffles, pasta, bread, sandwiches, and I had a lot of illness as a child that it was just kind of like normal stuff. I took Alka-Seltzer, I drank coffee, I took Excedrin, took many things, and it was just kind of became, it just is just kind of normal and natural. It's just part of growing up.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I heard. That's just part of getting older. That was the term that my parents would say to me. Well, you're just getting older. This is what happens. It was so normalized in my house to be on many prescriptions. Migraines every day was my situation too. And I practically lived in that aisle of CVS with all of these remedies, right? So there was like Gas-X, Maalox, Mylanta, Beano, Pepto-Bismol, Excedrin. And it was these things that we lived on. And it was like, well, I ate this and now I've got to take this. I've got to take all of these over-the-counter remedies to solve the problems that the food gave me. But nobody mentioned that it's the food that's doing this to you.
Well, and the biggest issue was lack of food for the majority of our evolution. And so food, what is the word? You guys help me out with. So, but there was lack of food.
The scarcity,
tremendous scarcity. And there was a lot of famine and a lot of sickness, and, between war and pestilence, disease, and everything else. So certainly after the Industrial Revolution was saying, hey, we got to help make food more accessible and abundant, right? So food security. And we did a great job. Too good of a job in essence. And that's kind of being the biggest problem. But the propaganda of cereal, maybe you could comment on your thoughts of the cereal industry and the grain industry and how that has sort of come into play and damaged so many of us.
Yeah. For me, I grew up sort of similar to you. Breakfast was cereal. Weekday breakfast was cereal, right? Sunday breakfast was a whole production, but Sunday breakfast was bagels. And so it was so grain based. So we wake up in the morning and we had, 15 different boxes of cereal in the pantry. That was very normal. And then, after dinner, if you wanted something for dessert, sometimes there was cereal for dessert too. But the whole idea of starting your day off with a giant bowl of sugar and grains it's just a terrible idea. It's going to give you that glucose spike that maybe you'll feel great, but by the time you get to work, you're going to be hungry again. And then what are you reaching for? A granola bar or something like that. Or you're having now what people are having with their breakfast are these like giant Frappuccino type coffees, these dessert drinks for breakfast. And it's just not a great way to start your day. If you're looking for sustained energy, that's going to come from being a fat burner, not from being a carb burner, unless you plan on, re-upping every 3 hours or so with more carbohydrates, the way you would do like in a marathon. It doesn't work for people.
Why are we addicted to carbs? What's the physiologic reason?
Well, yeah, I'm no expert in this, but it's my understanding that there's so much, first of all, there's cultural comfort in our carbohydrates, right? So we go back to where we say, like, when I was not feeling well, what did my mom give me? Something sweet to eat, something nice makes me feel good. So there's that cultural comfort. But then there's also that dopamine hit that you get from carbohydrates, which makes you feel good. So in addition to the glucose going up and making you feel good, there's all these other reasons why sugar makes us all feel happy and good.
Well, there's only two things that matter. First is reproduction. Why does sex feel good? Because it gets the only thing that's the most important thing is building families, children. And food, equally important, because if you don't have enough fuel, you can't reproduce. And fat, by the way, is the only energy burned in the body, not glucose, in my opinion. Glucose must be converted to fat or you die. And that is seen in type 1 diabetics and cirrhotics, the liver. And so nature made sugar feel good because when it was available, and if you think about the diseases we suffer from, they're mostly in our post-reproductive years in the sense of death and things like that. And if you think about how we used to reproduce, what age are you supposed to reproduce at as a woman or a guy?
14, 15, 16 years old.
I mean, what other purpose does menstruation say to the world?
Right. This is your prime. This is when it's supposed to happen. And after 40, I mean, there's just no point in you.
Well,
as far as reproduction goes.
Less so because the majority of reproduction happens earlier, but still many women are reproducing in their 40s, by the way. And many more so I've seen on a keto carnivore dietary approach, which I think is important for all of us. And the reason I always say keto is because we want to invite everyone to healthier living. And not everyone's going to do a strict carnivore diet like I've mostly been for 15 years-ish. And so I'm still that carnivore, but my intention is we want to make sure that everyone could feel the benefits of a ketogenic lifestyle, and carnivore happens to be part of that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. There's no need to, I don't want to say drag people into strict carnivore, but there's no need to force strict lion diet carnivore on the majority of the population. I don't think we are furthering our cause by telling people that we all need to be so strict. And I think a ketogenic diet, like I said, that's where I always had felt my best before I even learned what carnivore was. A ketogenic diet, even a low carbohydrate diet. Some people do so well under 100 grams of carbohydrate, under 50 grams of total carbohydrate. They do so well. And they start feeling better. They are at that point sometimes reducing their plant intake. They are going back to cereal. They're absolutely reducing things like their glyphosate load, because if you get rid of grains, which you've got to do on a keto diet, I mean, think of all the toxins that you're then not consuming just with the removal of grains. So I'm with you on that. I think keto is great. It's so helpful. And yeah, I mean, you've seen this in your practice. Fertility and keto, they go hand in hand.
Well, I have so many healthy men and women that aren't reproducing.
Yeah.
And so the question is, what is the main reason we're alive? It's reproduction. And so it's the first thing to go, and it's dropping. The number of people conceiving is dropping. The sperm abnormalities, the male and female reproductive abnormalities are on the rise, and a keto carnivore lifestyle. And in many ways, if you look at Schlank's book, Meat 3 Times a Day, he showed improvement by simply adding animal fatty meat to the diet and organ meats.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on organ meats?
I mean, I'm a fan. I grew up with chopped liver, so I'm a fan of chicken liver and calf's liver. And so I like that. In terms of what people consider, like offal, I'm a huge fan of like beef tongue, oxtail, and those kind of things. I don't eat them all that frequently. They're a little bit hard to come by, and liver will stink up the house. So it's the kind of thing that I like to cook outside. But in terms of like what people should be eating, I take a couple liver caps every day, But I don't tell people you've got to eat an ounce of liver every day, or you've got to have, your like you've got to have your 4 ounces of liver a week. I mean, some people do very well with that, and other people, like, you just don't really need it. Some people talk about like folate and that you have to have liver, but if you don't tolerate liver, if you don't like the taste of it, a couple liver caps can be very helpful. But it's not a requirement. You don't have to have organ meats on a keto or carnivore diet, is my take.
There are a couple of questions in there, Dr. Nelson. You want to hit on any of them?
Well, the first question was for you, Dr. Kiltz. What is it like at the airport these days?
Well, I mostly fly my plane, and the ATC are doing an amazing job of dealing with traffic. I mean, so I flew out of Houston. What was it? Houston recently, and Houston International, and it was just, I mean, it was a little bit of backup, but we got out and everyone was cordial, and it was good because I deal with the ATC world, and the people that are doing that work are doing an amazing job and keeping us moving and safe as we can be. I still highly recommend flying. Still think it's great. What? I just clicked one here by George.
Go ahead.
I'm
looking for them because I had not.
My triple BE, bacon, butter, beef, eggs, glucose is a sugar. Insulin is a hormone that the body releases to deal with sugar. Too much glucose leads to mass production of insulin, hyperinsulinemia. I don't think insulin is our problem. I believe that insulin is a digestive hormone that rises in the blood, delivered directly from the pancreas to the liver to convert sugars and amino acids. Glucose is not the only sugar circulating in the human body. And if you look at the glycocalyx and the essentials of glycobiology, George and everyone else, I highly recommend this book to understand the power of sugars. And my bet is that insulin is a digestive hormone enzyme. And think about it. Dr. Nelson and he did a 22-day fast. I did 15 days. My insulin was less than 1. My glucose was 45 to 65. I felt great the whole time. So how many times do we measure glucose insulin levels on a 10, 15, 20-day fast? How many people are doing that?
Nobody's doing that. Nobody.
So think about it. When you ate however long ago and you feast and fast, and why would insulin be pathologic? Does it make any sense that insulin is pathologic in the human body? Not one bit. The glycocalyx is the antigenic component of a plant or an animal that causes inflammation, not the proteins. And so what if glucose is just another agent for glycosylation? And nobody's talking about glycosylation. Nobody talks about the glycobiome. And how many people talk about hepatogenous diabetes? Nobody. And that's actually why, if we really understood, my bet is tremendous amount of damages to the liver. As the liver is damaged, the ability of insulin to convert amino acids and sugars to fat drops. Glucose levels rise, amino acid levels rise, which are antigenic, which antigenicity means they cause inflammation. And so it's just kind of a very interesting scientific endeavor. My talk with Dave Feldman, he really knew a little bit about the glycocalyx, not a lot, and didn't know anything about hepatogenous diabetes. And again, if you don't eat, your insulin level is low, because insulin's job is not to regulate glucose levels. It's not to put glucose into the cell. it's to convert digestive sugars and amino acids in the liver to fatty acids and fat and VLDLs, which without it, you don't survive. I mean, liver damage is a nail in the coffin. And liver damage is on the rise tremendously. So again, sugars are in every cell of every animal you eat. And so when we say when you eat food, glucose rises and insulin rises, well, that's physiological normal in order for you to make adipose tissue, which the last I looked, adipose tissue is more important than any cell of your body, which is very radical, right?
Yeah, well, I agree with you in that we've got to have insulin. The goal is absolutely not to suppress insulin to the levels of 0, right? I mean, when you look at those type 1 diabetics, they are not producing fat and they are wasting away. And that fat as an organ, it does have a function other than just cushioning us, making us curvy. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
It's actually the most important tissue in your body. That's the crazy part of this, because an anorexic, sarcopenic, Dr. Nelson could comment on this. If an severe anorexic shows up in the emergency room, they have a high likelihood of dropping dead. Obesity is a slow death, but being too skinny is a rapid death. Because, and this is where you go and look at bears, hibernation. What do bears use in hibernation to make their little babies? Adipose tissue. Their insulin is low. They're making babies in utero. They lose no bone mass and no muscle mass. They eat nothing, they drink nothing, they piss and poop nothing for like 6 months. Mm-hmm. And so you see a lot of the science we talk about is petri dish science, but not actually understanding to cut a human being open and understand what's going on the organ level and the cellular level. And I know this is the question. I mean, why would insulin be pathologic at all? I mean, a type 1 diabetic, if they're fed fat, or a ketogenic diet is feeding fat. Why? Because fat does not require insulin or the liver in order to digest it and metabolize it, which is kind of crazy, right?
It's very interesting when you look at that population. You can see where the role of it, the role that insulin plays, because they're not making it. Yeah. And you can see what they can handle and what they can't handle and what helps them and what doesn't.
Well, how about a cirrhotic? What do they look like?
This I don't know. I'll let you explain.
Well, so an end-stage cirrhotic, they have no fat. And yet their insulin and glucose are both high. Well, I thought insulin's job was to put sugar in the cell. What if the job of insulin is to make fat in the liver and that's it? Because you can go a year without food if you have enough fat on your body, correct?
Yes.
Sure. Well, I thought you need to eat every day. We do not.
No, we don't.
See, the problem is we're in a world of abundant food and easy access and overconsumption of food. And we know, and I think when we look at caloric restriction as a improvement of life length potentially, and I say potentially because it really hasn't been proven, but it's suggested that by simply not eating for lengthy more time, you actually expose more autophagy because you're consuming less poisons, which I think is the real most important part to this story. But again, it is, we're all trying to be skinny, but what animal wants to be skinny?
Yeah, no. Survival is the name of the game, right? And so there is a certain level of body fat that, some people say, it's optimal body fat, but there's a certain level that people need, and different people from different different cultures, they sort of like appear differently. Some cultures just say, oh, they have more fat storage, or they're more likely to store fat. This culture is less likely to store fat. But there is a minimum that people need in order to stay healthy. Getting to that stage ready, like that bodybuilder trim, low body fat thing, even they don't live there for more than a few days. They know that that's not healthy.
It's not healthy, and athletes don't live as long, by the way.
Right.
And this idea that we should all exercise. No, you want to participate in life.
Yeah,
that's the most important part. But ultimately, think about the peoples of the world for the last 50,000 years, right? Did you follow the herd? Did you have to migrate around the globe in so many ways? I mean, you are carrying a bag of a box lunch.
absolutely not.
There's only one place for food, and that's fat,
Right.
adipose tissue.
Yeah, it's our backup survival. And like you said, if you have enough on you, you can go for a year. Sure.
Well, but what if the food you eat is not the fuel for your body until it's been converted to fat in the liver and distributed throughout your body? That's why type 1 diabetics die. They can eat all they want, but they lose all their fat, because think about it. It must be that fat is their only fuel. And then you have a cirrhotic, the same problem. They can eat as much food as they want, but they get skinnier and skinnier and they die. And so they have plenty of insulin, plenty of sugar, because it's the adipocytes which are actually the most important cells of your body. And we demoralize fat people and fat. Medicine and science is highly discriminatory against that, without any true knowledge of the true science, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. And it goes up and down in terms of like the fashionability of how much fat we have on our bodies too. So if you take it back many hundreds of years, Zoftig and voluptuous was in style because it showed abundance and fertility. And then you take it to the 90s and you've got Kate Moss, and she's there's nothing there. And so we often will struggle with the trends of fatness and thinness just based on fashion, too. But
go ahead, Dr. Nelson.
Cheryl asks, is inulin, she's talking about inulin, powder taken daily? First of all, Cheryl, you have the wrong forum, but inulin is a soluble fiber, doesn't get absorbed in the stomach or in small intestines, gets to the colon, gets fermented there, and it's
deadly. Deadly. I mean,
I don't know.
Why would you eat something that isn't digestible?
I'm with you on this.
You might as well eat plastic.
I'm not a fan of, by definition, fiber is an indigestible carbohydrate. I don't like how things like inulin, chicory root, all of those things that we add to our foods to increase fiber, to get our gut bacteria going. I don't enjoy those additives. They don't do anything for me other than produce gas. And they increase bulk, which is problematic for a lot of people. We're just shoving fiber through, and even soluble fibers, I don't believe that they are helpful for us.
Well, if you're feeding the microbes in the gut, what do the microbes make?
They make gas
and alcohol.
Yeah.
And methane and aldehydes. Those are toxic chemicals for the glycocalyx and the epithelial cells of the gut. Plus, they are ingested into the bloodstream, and they're toxic for every cell of your body. And so, go ahead. Next one.
Steph B. Cat asks, comment, and I guess more than a question, but had to go to the cardiologist yesterday. by the PCP because my LDL was 319, down from 425. Other labs are good. Cardiologist told me to go on statins or quit carnivore, or I'll need a bypass. I refused, but left in tears. What do you think about this cholesterol issue, Linda?
As far as the research that I have seen, this person's talking about LDL cholesterol. It's just an irrelevant metric what I've learned is that LDL is really not a great way to determine your risk for cardiovascular events. I think that what's more important, and Dr. Kiltz can sort of chime in here, is our HDL and our triglyceride levels and the ratio there. I think that's very helpful. Doing something like a CAC or doing something like a HSCRP, where you're going to really measure your inflammation levels or measure what's actually going on in your arteries, is going to be far more indicative of where your risk lies rather than LDL. I think we've really missed the mark with LDL.
But what's our ability to predict your time of death or the diseases or when you're going to get them?
Yeah, but basically there's no guarantees there. No, it is all a guessing game, right?
It's a coin flip in some ways. That's part of the challenge. And I shared my recent CAC score and CT angiogram and stuff. And part of that was like, we kind of are thrown under the bus when you get these things. And then everyone's like, oh my God. And I'm like, who knows when and how I'm going to die? Who wants to bet $1 billion on it?
No, you're looking pretty good to me.
We're making a pool. Talk to me later. No, I just.
Oh yeah, and you're all gonna. Yeah, Kiltz Cup. Kiltz Cup.
No Barb asks. So, well, don't know if it's a question. Yes, there's a question at the end. So glad to see you, Linda. You're one of my favorite Gen Xers ever. I really enjoyed your YouTube content. Do you plan on putting any more videos out?
That's so nice. Thanks, Barb. I do plan on putting some more videos out. Right now, I have been absolutely crazed because I'm in the midst of writing a book, a carnivore cookbook with, I'll have 100 recipes in there. I'll have some, theory and science and myth busting up front. And so I'm really focusing on that. And I have not been putting out any videos. So I'm grateful to be on your platform here. But yeah, ultimately I will be putting out. So stay subscribed. More videos will be coming, but probably in 2026.
Okay, so I'm just going to share this. Our friend Jenny Medich's book, Complete Carnivore. It's fantastic. The encyclopedia, another great one. And when Linda's book is out, Kiltz is going to do the same thing with her book, and we're going to make sure that everyone gets a copy. That's the beauty of all this, and continue with the sharing these ideas, which is really, again, it's so important. And I found carnivore changed my life. Keto, like Atkins at one point, then I did Weight Watchers a little bit, just because a little egotistical at the time. And, I thought, I got to lean up even more and build muscle. And then I found paleo, then keto, and finally carnivore. And it's like, this is the greatest. And I agree with Linda's comment about like the lion diet. To me, it's rare to raw fatty meat, salt water, and smile on your face and go to work every day.
All right. Chuck, for 10 years. Great. You're 100% meat, and do you include spices, dairy, and supplements? That's a question for you. And what are your top health benefits over the years from changing your diet?
Yeah. So, I'll start with what I eat. I do eat all animal foods, right? So, pork, chicken, beef, bison. I'm not 100% meat. I'm going to say it's like 99.99% meat for me, because I do include spices. And I do include some tomato because I've been able to tolerate that. And it helps me make tomato paste, tomato sauce, like a low sugar, simple ingredient version of that, because it helps me stay sustainable and cook Italian meals, which I love.
I'm Italian, love Italian meals. I do more of the cream sauces if I'm going to do that. And now with, I don't know, your recipes are going to include, like Bella's done this, Marie Emmerich's done this, adding some animal-based flours to make the pasta like substances, and which I think is really good. I kind of stay away from the spices though, because I used to love them, but now I take a little bit and it tries to kill me. So
yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where it's to tolerance and it's totally optional. So spices in all recipes, they are generally not foundational. They're just sort of like for flavor. So it's just as you want them. In terms of like the rest of the question, like dairy and supplements, I do include dairy. I've always included dairy. A lot of people have trouble with dairy. They say, oh, dairy will cause weight gain for me. But I have found that high protein dairy, and people will get on me for this, that I love a fat-free, non-fat Greek yogurt. I don't find that dairy to cause me to gain weight. I actually find it helps me trim out. You're holding some great raw dairy, I see.
I feed it to my cat and dog.
Sure you do. That's how we have to get it here too.
I'm in the doghouse all my life, pretty much.
Yeah, I think dairy can be great. It's not for everybody. If you are allergic to, that type of protein, there's, the A1 protein. You can always get an A2 dairy or a goat dairy, something like that can help. If you don't do dairy.
I think it's the sugars we're allergic to, not the protein, because we forget the majority of proteins are actually glycoproteins. It's the sugar component. And that's why I put this book out there. And you could get this for free. It's all online for free. Essentials of Glycobiology, Cold Springs Harbor Laboratory Press. When you learn about the power of sugars, you will realize that you are only alive because of sugar, actually. And there are a number of other books that I highly recommend for those scientists out there that want to understand about the power of the sugars.
One thing I want to put out there is to just let people know, if you do want to add carbohydrate back into your carnivore diet, you don't necessarily need to do this with sweet potato, avocado, high fibrous carbohydrate type foods, because like we were saying, there is sugar in several animal-based foods. So the very same reason why people get upset about carnivores eating cottage cheese is because, well, that's, high sugar, or there's sugar, it's those lactose sugars that you're referring to in milk. If you're trying to get a little bit of carbohydrate in your carnivore diet, you don't necessarily have to go to plants. You can get that from carbohydrate foods.
From carnivore foods. I'm going to just show this one little thing. This is the cell membrane of a sperm head, but it's the cell membrane of every cell of every cell of our body. And there are these embedded proteins, and then the sugars are, you can see how many sugars are here on this membrane. Is that a little or a lot?
I can't really see your screen, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Here are all the sugars. There are like 11 or 12 sugars in the sperm head cell, because it's the sugars which are not only the barcode, but they're the antenna. They're the lock and the key that says friend or foe on every cell of every organism that exists. And so that's the part about sugars that we're not talking about. Sugar is absolutely required in your diet. And the reason I say that is because every cell you eat has sugar in it, right?
You mean like the meat cell structures, they have sugar in them. Yeah.
Every cell of every organism, every microbe contains a glycocalyx. More so than you and I are even understanding and talk about. And so sugar is critical for survival because you always eat it no matter what you eat. Even when you eat only fat cells, it's got a glycocalyx.
But to be clear, is there a distinction there between eating glucose and eating meat that has some an os in the cell structure?
Every cell structure of every organism contains sugars, all of them. And so when you eat meat, you are eating sugar. It's the difference is the plant cell has a cell wall, which is a rigid structure that is more fibrous and less digestible. And plant cells contain oxalates, phytates, lectins, heroin, cocaine, marijuana, nicotine, which are actually the harmful components. And so, we're so hooked on sugar, but let's say you ate
the amounts are also not the same. I mean, if you take 4 ounces,
they
4
are.
ounces of beef and 4 ounces of most plant vegetables don't have the same amount of carbohydrates.
They do actually. It's a cell wall. It's a cell wall. Just
they don't. They can quantify. You can measure it. They don't. Okay. I am sorry.
But you can't measure the glycocalyx very readily because it easily breaks down. This is the challenge. I'm giving you what I'm just.
I am 100% with you on the glycocalyx, but the amounts found between the two tissues that you're comparing is not the same.
No, because the difference, the majority of the problem is when we're talking about sugar. Remember, the leading killer of the world is cane sugar, beet sugar, which is highly added to everything the majority of people in this world eat. So that's why a whole foods diet is less toxic. And so, everyone consumes sugar. And when we use the word sugar, we should be saying cane sugar or beet sugars and things like that. Peanut butter. Is there sugar in most peanut butter? Added sugar. Tomato. How about tomato sauce?
Well, there are carbohydrates.
No, but it's also added sugars also. And so, again, what I'm saying is that my bet is, again, it's sugar in and of itself isn't the real problem. It's the frequency and the type of things we're eating. Because if I used to eat 3 to 6 times a day, but if you only eat 1 time a day and add more fat and cook the plants well, you may also do better. And if you have less goitrogenic foods or the less spicy foods, maybe something else that has more value. But again, this is a conversation so we can listen and learn from ideas that maybe we're not touching. That's all.
I think one of the things, sorry.
Go ahead, Linda.
I'm sorry, Linda.
I think one of the things that's important for people is that the sugars that we are often taking in from foods tend to lead to this road of craving additional carbohydrates and an overconsumption of carbohydrates, where the amount of carbohydrate that you're going to get from the cell wall of a piece of meat is, yes, it is a compound that may end in an OSE. It is a sugar, but that quantity and in that form and without that sweetness is going to do you a lot more good than the quantity and the form of sucrose, glucose, maltodextrin and those kinds of sugars.
100%. 100%. Because everyone stops to get their coffee, every tea. And if you look at the sugar cartel is more powerful than any cartel in the world. And
well, people do love their sugar. It's a powerful drug.
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I think a lot of what we're talking about, carnivore lifestyle, made it easier. Because would you say that the meat, the fat, is very satiating?
Absolutely. Those are the two satiating macronutrients, the protein and the fat. I mean, that's where you're going to get satiety. A lot of people will lean on fiber for that stretch satiety. But I don't find that very satiating.
No. Well, what if it's okay? I'm gonna. What about we use protein here, and I think protein is a problem, and because I think it's the fat that's satiating and anti-inflammatory. So I just had a full 7-bone rib roast, bone in my refrigerator for 4 weeks. I bought it where it had already been 4 weeks in a dry in a meat dry aging, and so I cut it up last night, and I noticed that the fat had no mold on it, none, and so again, that's why butter doesn't mold, because it's anti-inflammatory. And by eating the fat, we suppress the microbes in the gut, which suppresses fermentation, which is another deadly component of the majority of the problems that we're dealing with. I mean, I deal with sick people every day, and the majority of people are eating at least 3 meals a day with a lot of plants and cooked lean meat. And I think the cooked lean meat is part of the problem.
There's definitely a point of leanness where you need to start adding fat. I'll agree with you that, a lot of people say like, oh, if you buy ground beef, you should get the 70-30, you should, get the 80-20, make sure you pour the fat back on. I don't think that everybody needs that high level of fat, but we need a certain percentage of fat. We need a certain number of grams of fat daily. And so if you're doing things like shrimp, chicken breast, beef tenderloin, absolutely, I'm going to say you need to add some fat to that. And that can be in the form of like beef tallow, that can be suet, that can be butter, that can be cream, but it's got to be there. You've got to sort of put that along. Doing a absolutely lean carnivore diet is just not going to give you any satiety. You're not going to feel great. You're not going to have energy to burn if you're not taking in those components. So I think that if you're at a spot where you're having New York strip steaks, you're having sirloin steaks, or you're even having that 90-10 ground beef, you're going to be fine. There's fat in there. But if you are doing 93, 97% lean stuff like chicken breast, tenderloin, you're going to run into problems. Yeah.
Or seal and more food for my cats and dogs. And I was watching Ben Azadi, and he said a spoonful of butter a day will make you feel better, healthier, and
all right,
lean out.
We have a few questions. I would like to get through them. Before that, this is Linda's YouTube.
Yeah. And there's more videos in the video section. I don't often go live, so there's only one there, but in the video section there are quite a few if you want to throw that up on the screen.
By the way, you're not streaming to your channel this today. You were.
I'm not. I don't know how to do that. I wish somebody would teach me.
Okay. All right. So we have a few questions here. I want to go through them quickly. Now, this one is easy. What is insulin? What is glucose? They're different things. Insulin is a hormone. Glucose is a molecule that we've been talking about. So I'm not gonna explain more on that. Okay. Question from Michael. What do you do to, I guess, bring the triglycerides down? Mine run high, I guess. Do you have any comments on this, Linda?
For me, I am no medical expert, but what I have seen is that when people adopt a low carbohydrate diet, their triglycerides naturally go down. That's my recommendation, a keto carnivore diet.
On some people, and there are very few, it may take a long time. And the advice of some people, more experts than me, maybe in the field of lipidology, actually I heard this from someone, and it might have been Dave Feldman. I'm not sure. First of all, my opinion, don't check your triglycerides if you want to check them before 6 to 12 months. Wait for your body to sort of balance itself out. Number two, sometimes you're still producing a lot of triglycerides because it's the main fat for energy, and your body might actually need more fat than what you're eating, not less. Okay. What do you have an opinion on this? I'm sure you have an opinion on this, Dr. Kales. What do you think?
Oh, my triglycerides are good, but my cholesterol and LDL is very high.
All right. PhD for Healthy M3. So you're saying there is no such thing as a zero carb diet. I think that's where Linda started the whole thing.
I mean, I'll just chime in and then I'll let you speak. But yeah, the whole idea of the zero carb diet, to me, that it's a little bit of a misnomer. When I started back in the zeroing in on health, and everyone was calling, it was like ZC carnivore, zero carb carnivore, and there's no zero carb, because there are trace carbs in animal foods, like Dr. Kiltz was alluding to. So zero carb. Even if you're eating a chunk of suet, you're probably like close to zero, but there is a little bit there. There is some carbohydrate, like a percentage of a gram, sure. So, it's splitting hairs though. I mean, what we're really concerned about is getting your carbohydrate low enough that it's not going to cause damage down the road. So
I like Dr. Kilt say it, just eliminate the plants. By the way, on the triglycerides, the triglycerides have a backbone of glycerol, which is basically a glucose molecule.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that we just haven't gotten to the glycobiome, glycocalyx enough in this realm here. And when we understand it more powerfully, we understand the power of sugars. And sugar is critical, and it's in everything you eat. And it may be more than minuscule, in my opinion.
My BBB and E asked, do you think 25 years of taking thyroid meds could dissolve or eat the thyroid, in your opinion, making it difficult to quit? Let me just say the premise is a little bit off. The thyroid doesn't dissolve, but what do you think about this question, Linda?
Thyroid is absolutely not my wheelhouse. I'm going to let Dr. Kill address this, or you.
Well, years of thyroid medication suppresses your hypothalamic pituitary pumping out of thyroid releasing hormone, and so you may ultimately have some defects there that may not work as well. And so in essence, you have some suppression of the thyroid cells. I still think the majority of the damage to the thyroid, along with the hypothalamus and pituitary, is due to goitrogenic foods, which don't just damage the thyroid in the iodine component integration into the thyroid hormone. It damaged the actual cells of the thyroid gland. They're tumorigenic and damage the cell directly. So again, all goitrogens are all plants. And so I think that's where the real damage happens But yeah, long-term use. That's why long-term use of birth control pills isn't good. Hormone use isn't good for men or women, in my opinion.
I mean, I'll just chime in and say, in my opinion, any long-term use of any pharmacological thing is not going to be great. There's side effects to every single one. None of it is natural. You know, even if you're doing like a common pharmaceutical, just because it's common doesn't mean that it's something that we are naturally missing or that we need. It's the side effects of constant prescription use are unknown. And
you have to weigh also the benefits and the risks of using medication, because if you need it, you need it. If you're deficient in a hormone, your body's not producing your thyroid in this case, well, you're going to have to supplement it. There is no other way around it, because taken to the extreme, the lack of these hormones is deadly. I mean, you die. If I take your thyroid out and do not supplement it, you're going to die. Just the same with many other hormones throughout our body. So the continuous use of a medication suppresses usually the organ that produces normally that medication, in this case, the thyroid, like Dr. Kills was explaining. And can you revive that or not? That's another topic. But #KMT for a t-shirt is a minute after 7. So please, you have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So let's. Michael United Carnivore Selly. Michael, email alia@drkills.com. Doctor spelled out DoctorKiltz.com.
Exactly.
Alia@drkills.com, and we will send you a t-shirt. If you have, because I didn't say anything specific, if we have it, well, include in the email if you want the steak shirt or the Body by Bacon shirt or just any KMT shirt. You live here in Florida, so I don't know if you're going to be in Hack Your Health. If you are going to be in Hack Your Health, then email Alia still, but maybe you can pick up your shirt at our booth next week. Okay.
Linda, when is your book coming out, do you think?
I'm hoping that pre-orders will start in the spring 2026, and then it hopefully will be like delivered to people around fall of 2026.
We're excited to see it.
I'm excited about it too.
Yeah. Keep putting out.
Thank you.
Appreciate you so much. Dr. Nelson, what do you need me to do?
Nothing. We're going to finish here. You can go over to Okai Carnivore, who's probably already streaming. And you have a great day. Today's Thursday at 3 p.m. We have a live stream with Denitra Davis. One of the things I remember, she has put in total remission her lupus. Great story.
Inflammation.
And I'll see you in the community, this Zoom call at 5:30 as well. Have a great day.
Thank you guys for having me.